The cows had been milked at sunrise. By the next morning, the milk was already turning, souring, curdling, smelling sharp. In any other part of medieval Europe, that milk would have been thrown out or fed to the pigs, but not here, not in Iceland, not in a Viking longhouse in the year 950 AD. Here, that spoiled milk was the start of something that could outlast a man, something that could feed a family through 9 months of darkness, something that crossed the Atlantic in wooden barrels, fueled warriors on raids, and is now sitting in your local supermarket in plastic tubs with names like Siggy's and Icelandic provisions stamped on the lid. This is the story of Skyr, the Viking superfood that turned spoiled milk into survival. To understand Skyr, you first have to understand the problem the Vikings were trying to solve. Around 874 AD, Norse settlers from Norway began crossing the brutal North Atlantic in open wooden longships looking for land. They found Iceland, an island of fire, ice, volcanoes, and almost no farmland. The summers were short, the winters were endless. Crops barely grew. There was no timber for fuel. There were no fruit trees. There were no spices. The settlers had brought cattle, sheep, and goats with them on their longships, and those animals produced milk, lots of milk, especially during the short summer months when the grass was rich and the cows were full. But milk has one fatal flaw: it rots fast. In the warm summer air, fresh milk goes bad in a day. So the Vikings had a question to answer. How do you turn a few short months of milk into 9 months of survival food? The answer they brought with them from Norway, refined over centuries in Iceland, was a brilliant biological hack. They didn't fight the souring of milk. They controlled it. They harnessed it. They turned it into a weapon against winter itself. Here's how Skyr was made. A Viking woman would take fresh milk from the morning milking. In traditional households, she would skim off the cream for butter. The skimmed milk was then gently warmed. Then she would take a spoonful of yesterday's batch of Skyr, called the starter, and stir it into the warm milk. This is a technique called backslopping. The starter was full of live bacteria, mostly strains of Streptococcus and Lactobacillus that had been passed down from batch to batch, from mother to daughter, for generations. She would also add a tiny amount of rennet, a natural enzyme from a calf's stomach, to help the milk thicken. Then she would cover the pot, set it near the hearth, and wait. Within hours, the bacteria would multiply. They would consume the lactose in the milk and convert it into lactic acid. The milk would curdle, the pH would drop, and what was once a perishable liquid was now an acidic, bacterially controlled food that bad microbes couldn't survive in. But she wasn't done. The thickened, curdled milk was then poured into a cloth bag and hung up to drain. For hours, sometimes overnight, the watery whey, called mysa, would drip out. What was left in the bag was thick, dense, almost like a soft cheese, tangy, smooth, and packed with concentrated protein. That was Skyr. And here's where the science gets remarkable. Modern lab analysis of traditional Icelandic Skyr shows that it contains around 11 grams of protein per 100 grams. That's roughly 2 to 3 times the protein of regular yogurt. It's so dense that some food scientists actually classify Skyr as a fresh cheese, not a yogurt at all, because of how much milk it takes to make a single serving. It takes about 4 liters of milk to produce just 1 liter of traditional Skyr. The straining process concentrates not just protein, but calcium, B vitamins, and the beneficial bacteria themselves. The acid level is so high that harmful bacteria can't establish themselves. Mold can't grow. Spoilage organisms can't compete. A pot of properly made Skyr could sit for weeks in a cold Icelandic pantry without going bad. In a cool earthen storage pit, it could last for months. This is what made Skyr a survival weapon, not a delicacy, not a luxury, a weapon against starvation. A pot of Skyr made in July could still feed a family in December. The Vikings figured out, without microscopes, without chemistry, that controlled fermentation was the closest thing they had to a refrigerator. They were essentially using bacteria as their refrigeration technology, and it worked so well that the practice survived almost completely unchanged for over 1,000 years. The medieval Icelandic sagas give us proof that skyr was central to daily life. In the famous Egil saga, written around the 13th century, skyr shows up as a household food eaten by farmers, warriors, and travelers. In Gretti's saga, the hero, Grettir, eats skyr in dramatic scenes that feel almost cinematic. And in the Bjornar saga, there's a hilarious moment where a hungry traveler named Bjorn is served skyr and cheese by a farmer and grumpily replies that in his own district, they call such provisions enemy's joy, meaning you'd only feed it to someone you didn't like. Skyr was that common, that ordinary, that much a part of everyone's life. But what's almost miraculous is what survived underneath it all, the bacterial cultures themselves. Because of Iceland's geographic isolation, the same strains of bacteria the original Norse settlers brought on their longships in 874 AD have been continuously kept alive in family kitchens. Each generation took a spoonful from the previous batch to start the next one. That same chain of microorganisms, theoretically, has been passed down for over 40 generations. Every traditional skyr made in Iceland today carries living descendants of the bacteria that nourished Viking warriors. It is one of the only foods on Earth that contains a literal, unbroken genetic chain back to the Viking Age. A 1,150-year-old culture, still alive, still working, still turning milk into survival. And here's something most people don't know. Skyr fueled some of the most extreme voyages in Viking history. The Norse settlement of Greenland in 985 AD, led by Eric the Red, was made possible in part by the ability to bring stored fermented dairy on long sea journeys. The Viking settlements in Newfoundland around 1000 AD depended on the same food technology. While the Norse hunted, fished, and gathered berries in North America, their barrels of fermented milk products gave them the dense protein they needed to survive landings 500 years before Columbus. The Atlantic crossing of the Vikings, one of the greatest accomplishments in maritime history, was made possible not just by their ships, but by their ability to feed themselves on a fermented dairy product that didn't need to be cooked, refrigerated, or refreshed. Then came the 20th century and the slow disappearance of traditional foods almost everywhere else. Almost. Skyr never left Icelandic kitchens. Even today, the country of 370,000 people consumes enormous amounts of it. It's eaten at breakfast, it's eaten as a snack, it's eaten as dessert with berries. The same food that fed Viking settlers in 950 AD still fills modern Icelandic refrigerators today. Then around 2005, a small Icelandic-American company called Siggy's started selling skyr in US supermarkets. Within 15 years, skyr had exploded into a multi-billion-dollar global industry. Walk into any major grocery store in the United States, Canada, the UK, and Australia, and you'll see skyr on the shelves, marketed as a high-protein, low-sugar, modern superfood. The athletes who eat it for muscle recovery, the bodybuilders who use it as a clean protein, the dieters who choose it over yogurt. None of them probably realize that what they're scooping out of a plastic tub is a direct descendant of a Viking survival food, made with the same bacteria, the same process, and almost the same recipe used over 1,000 years ago. It's a strange thing to think about. The next time you tear the foil off a tub of skyr, take a moment. You're holding a 1,000-year-old technology, a solution invented by people who lived through winters you couldn't imagine. A food that crossed oceans, survived plagues, outlasted kingdoms, and ended up rebranded as a fitness snack. The Vikings didn't waste their spoiled milk. They turned it into the longest-running food invention in Western history. So, tell me, if you had to live a Viking winter, would you trade your modern fridge for a pantry full of skyr, butter, dried fish, and smoked meat? Or would you starve by week 3?
Drop your honest answer below. And if you want to keep digging into the strange, forgotten foods that built empires, the subscribe button is right there. Alternate Past will see you in the next one.